Peace in, folks. How you doing? Use the force. Positive mental attitude. We're going to try, right? So, it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. You know what I'm saying? You know, I've been for a morning walk this morning with Pooch, and just down by the seaside, man. It's just the water was calm, but sort of like heaving. But the waves when it breaks, man, I love the water. I love the water. See me? Do you know what I'm saying? I find it so calming, reminding, you know, like life goes on in a beautiful way, as well as, you know, life goes on. Do you know what I mean? A perspective is important. And, you know, I think, you know, all things considered, considering perspective ain't a fucking bad idea right now. Do you know what I mean? And I think just generally considering our choices, our decisions, you know, I'm not a anti or a non-believer of pretty much anything. I disagree with plenty of things. I'm still not, I don't get into the whole like anti it. I'm just like, no, I don't disagree. I don't agree with that. And if you could prove me in a way I'd agree, I would. But let's not tangent too hard, too quickly. But you know, I think, like I was going to say, COVID's real. The severity of it is the bit that's hugely in question. The justification for lockdown is hugely in question. You know, and if we keep a mindset whereby we're not just going to believe anything, to some degree, at any point in life, right? Like, I see things are possible and I see things are happening. They still aren't definitive to me. I've seen enough science, levitating stuff using sound, right? Using sound to recreate DNA using water and sound. They did a test tube. Like, the shit that like we are capable of doing. You know, manipulating, hybriding viruses so that they can actually take to a human body in a large way. That type of shit gets done in laboratories. Science has like this beautiful exploration, right, of life, and then corporation gets involved and tries to commodify and wear it out to the public in a less than healthy manner. So perspective's fucking handy when you're looking at a whole world of crazy, thinking, oh, you know, I really want to do something about this. I'm not prepared to accept what is, and also the options that are given to us when we look at, you know, because we're given so many limiting thoughts, you know, that when you look at something as large as, you know, creating a large change in humanity that moves away from leadership and dominance but to community and agreement, right? Like, that's a large move. And if you buy into the humans can't imagine infinity, if you buy into the you can't teach old dogs new tricks, if you buy into so many different narratives that are limiting on the human imagination and creation process, then, you know, and I've not really subscribed to that type of thing. As many people haven't. I'm not, again, I'm not up here like blowing no trumpet singing my song, although I'm singing my song, but like, you know, I just want good. I just want to spread some good words, you know. I want to spread some good action. I do good action. I always have in my life, but like more. Like, you know, I realised that just being a good person wasn't going to create the change, or the type of change at least that I want to see. And you know, a lot of people do in many different ways, you know. A lot of people are going at a similar sort of change in different ways. you know. I mean, Bitcoin, I think that is not necessarily Bitcoin itself, as great as I think it is. Normally something like Bitcoin will be paving the way for something else. Bitcoin won't be the thing, I can't imagine, but I tell you what, I think something like Bitcoin would solve financial dominance and corruption, right? And if we can solve financial dominance and corruption, I mean, that would hugely impact a whole load of other corruption, right? But if we at the same time can create a document that does the same thing, obviously, I think the Declaration of Humanity is a great idea, and you know, I'm going to push on it. I'm not really pushing on it at the moment. I'm just sort of, I've had to take a step back. I'm just sort of like analysing the lay of the land, letting things sink in, having a bit of a break. You know, I think it's important right now not to just act on things, not to just, you know, like, I've got a big mouth, I can say some shit. You know, I write some stuff on social media, mate, and I get anxiety. I get anxiety about who's going to say what to me. Because, like, I know what I've said. And I know what a lot of people think. Because I know what possible comebacks can come from it. And thankfully, you know, I want to say quite often, sometimes, often enough, like, someone doesn't just come on and insult me and say something generic. They're like interacting. They clearly, like, it's people getting over the fact that I'm happy to be, you know, I'm not a COVID denier, but that doesn't mean that therefore I just excuse everything. You know, I'm trying to look at, you know, like lots of people, just trying to look at the larger impact, you know, and this is like literally, there is arguments within the government, there is arguments within the health sector, there is, because this is not unanimous, this has been pushed, right? And it just doesn't look warranted. It doesn't even make any sense, man. If you want to lock anything and anyone up, and you're doing it for health reasons, you lock up the weak, right? You lock up that, you keep the economy going, you keep people working, spirits up, immunities. If for some reason we found out that actually shit, like fucking healthy people are dropping like flies, well, then we've got ourselves a real pandemic on our hands, and a lot of people are going to die. I'm not insensitive to all this, but what is happening is causing a conversation that has to touch on the borders of, you know, insensitivity, right? Because we have to be able to be objective and still critical, and we're talking about human life, so that's not actually an easy conversation to have, but I think it's easy enough, right? There's plenty of people having it, and I think more people should have these critical conversations, because if the effect is worse than the cause, then the reaction is too much and misplaced. Well, the effect has been more deaths, more mental health, more abuse, children and adults, right? Loss in jobs, 3 million plus lost their jobs because of this, just in England. And actually the reality of the amount of people dying that are out of danger zones anyway, right? People that are like, what do they call it? Over 70 with comorbidities. I'm still not entirely sure of this comorbidities thing, but I understand what it means. It means they had pre-existing health conditions that could be triggered and amplified by the thing that comes in and hits them. So, you know, COVID can act like a door to death if somebody already is on their way to that door. You know, and the younger people that get hit by it are people that have either subtle health conditions they're not aware of, you know, or they're still within an age bracket where their immune system is potentially deteriorating depending on the lifestyle they've led, right? So it's not a not knowing, it's a this don't make sense on the lockdown thing. So all the while, the economy has been trying to crash for years. Like, I say look into the history of money, right, or look into the history of society, right, if you look into the history of monetary systems, you realise that most of them go because they end up being so corrupt and based on nothing that they implode. So what is happening right now? I mean, the economy's in like some rapid implode. I don't see no one talking about that. You know, that's going to hugely impact life, because our whole way of existing in society is based around the monetary system that has been based on debt for too long now. And it's literally, the debt has gone so far that no one could possibly ever come out of it. And so while everyone's looking at COVID and how the economy's crashing because of COVID, no one's like going, well, shit, this has been happening. You know, and one way that the inner core of empires survive is by rising and smashing nations, basically, like power states and stuff like that, keeping conflict going so that they can just keep hopping around, rising and smashing their civilizations, and just mass effect on human life, right? Like, I say that so easily, but what is the rise and smash of a nation? What does that look like economically? And what is the then real impact on life that comes from this? I mean, what I see as the inner core of part of the power players looks like they've chosen China. The banks have been highly invested in China for some years now. They've literally influxed their economy to give them the growth that they've had, the cities they've built, the technology they now run with. They've nearly got rid of actual paper money in like the cities, right? Life's still happening. But the cities have been turned into these tech hubs, and everyone that lives in it live like that. You know, if that was done in this healthy manner without domination and no leaders that want to use that power to inflict their way on other people, that would be great. But it's not. So it's a fun one, isn't it? The Western economy is getting decimated. We're all going to have a totally different life within the next 10 years. Totally. Like, we think this last year's been a change. So, like I often say, if we know things are heading down a bad path, what we can do is, instead of finding out even more and more about this bad path, we go, whoa, bad path, right. Solution, change direction. What can we do differently? And if we start to unite now, if we start to become aware now, if we start to find why we need to change and what we want from society, we can come together with these ideas and actually create some real grassroots movements. You know, and this is happening all over the world. There is rebellions happening all over the world. You know, the fucking White House even had to pull a stunt, like the fucking place getting rushed, to keep eyes away from the real rebellions that are happening all over the world. Under every flag, the people are kicking back and saying, fuck no, hell no, and no. I'm good, thank you. I want a joint community. A real global community, not the one they're trying to bring in. Not the one they're trying to bring in. Anyway, you beautiful people, I hope you have a lovely day. I send you best wishes. We're up on that time, so I'm going to say to you, use the force, positive mental attitude, be kind with your thoughts to yourselves like you would others. Keep loving your hearts for yourselves like you would others, and let's get it. Get what, John? Awareness, of course. Peace in.